The Louvre,
Yeah.
it's this global symbol of art, history, and usually sheer endurance. So imagine this. You finally get there, ticket ready, pair of sunshine maybe, and bam, the doors are shut. Closed, not for a holiday, not for cleaning, because the staff walked out on strike. I mean, it's almost unthinkable for a place like the Louvre, isn't it? Okay, let's really unpack this. What happened?
Well, that's exactly what did happen on Monday, June 16th, 2025. And it's really the heart of our deep dive today. We're looking at some key reports here, things like Louvre strike, the cost of unsustainable tourism, and an AP News piece about the strike sounding the alarm on, well, over-tourism. Our mission really is to get past those initial headlines. We want to dig into the fundamental security and safety issues. We're talking physical safety for visitors, for staff, and the huge strain on the museum's actual building, its infrastructure. And also how modern tourism, with everyone glued to their phones, plays into this whole crisis.
Right, because this isn't just, oh no, I missed my Mona Lisa selfie. This is much deeper. It's like, how do these massive, iconic places actually cope with the crowds, the lack of staff, and the sort of unexpected side effects of millions wanting to see one specific painting? It really exposes a kind of fragility, doesn't it? Like the whole operating model is creaking under the pressure of modern tourism.
Okay, so take us back to that Monday. It sounds dramatic. The Louvre delayed opening, then just closed. What was the absolute final straw? What pushed the staff to do something so visible, creating this unthinkable sight, as the sources put it?
It was a spontaneous strike, genuinely spontaneous. It flared up during what was meant to be just a normal internal meeting. So this wasn't like a big planned union thing weeks in advance. It was immediate. A reaction. You had gallery attendants, ticket agents, security, the people who make the place run. They just collectively said no more, refused to start work. Their message was crystal clear. They cited unmanageable crowds, chronic understaffing, and one union used the term untenable working conditions.
Untenable. Wow. Yeah. And what's really telling and frankly worrying is this isn't new. The sources point out this pattern. Similar walkouts happened in 2019 overcrowding, and even back in 2013, there were closures because of safety fears. So it's like this warning light has been flashing for years, and it finally hit a public breaking point. It really shows how desperate the staff must have felt, to disrupt things on that scale.
And you can just imagine the scene outside that glass pyramid. Thousands of people, the sources say, stranded and confused visitors, just stuck in lines, going nowhere. Did the reports mention how the tourists reacted? Was it just anger, or did anyone, get it? Understand why the staff did it?
Well, the main feeling captured was definitely frustration.
Yeah.
Makes sense, right? There was this one quote from a tourist, Kevin Ward from Milwaukee. He nailed it. It's the Mona Lisa moan out here.
Yeah.
He said, thousands of people waiting, no communication, no explanation. I guess even she needs a day off. Yeah. So while the reports didn't really dig into sympathetic tourists, that lack of communication, the sheer chaos, it definitely fueled the negative experience. It just paints this picture of a total system breakdown, right? Stemming from the pressure on people and place.
Which brings us right to the physical safety side of things.
Yeah.
The numbers alone are kind of mind-blowing. 8.7 million visitors last year. That's huge. And the sources say that's more than double what its infrastructure was designed to accommodate. Double.
Yeah, double.
Even with that daily cap, what is it? 30,000 people?
That's right, 30,000.
Even with that, the staff are calling it a daily test of endurance. When you cram that many people into a space not built for it, physical safety just becomes a whole different ballgame, doesn't it, for everyone?
Exactly. A daily test of endurance. Think about what that means. Constantly navigating this sea of people, not for an hour, but all day, every day. It's not just uncomfortable, it's physically draining, mentally exhausting. And that kind of environment, described as noisy, jostling, and so dense, it just inherently breeds risk. A little stumble. In that crowd, it could easily become a dangerous pileup. Or think about a medical emergency. How do you even get help in?
And here's where it gets really interesting, thinking about what it's actually like in there. They talk about the Mona Lisa's daily mob. Can you believe it?
Yeah.
Roughly 20,000 people a day squeezing into one room for a selfie.
20,000, it's unbelievable.
It sounds less like appreciating art and more like...
Yeah, a mosh pit. There was this visitor, Ji-Yeon Park from Seoul, who said, you don't see a painting. You see phones, you see elbows, you feel heat, and then you're pushed out. That high use of portable technology, the phones, it's not just annoying, it actively makes the space more challenging, more unsafe, doesn't it?
It really does. Everyone's looking at their screen, trying to get the shot, so they're less aware of who's around them, the crowd flow, potential hazards. It just ups the risk of bumps, falls, general chaos.
Absolutely.
Right.
And beyond those immediate risks, trips, falls, think of the staff, those inhumane working conditions.
Yeah.
They're the ones trying to manage these throngs, answer questions, keep things safe day in, day out. It's constant stress, exhaustion. And you can imagine probably dealing with frustrated, maybe even aggressive visitors sometimes. And the discomfort isn't just in the Mona Lisa room. The sources mention things like too few rest areas, limited bathrooms, and the heat, especially in summer, magnified by that glass pyramid acting like a greenhouse.
A greenhouse effect, right.
Yeah. It got so bad that the Louvre president herself, Laurence Descartes, reportedly said in a leaked memo that the visitor experience is a physical ordeal.
Wow. From the president.
Yep. When the person in charge uses language like physical ordeal, you know it's serious. It points to a fundamental failure in managing density. And that's a massive security concern. Imagine trying to evacuate that dense crowd in an emergency. It would be a nightmare, potentially catastrophic.
A physical ordeal. That is incredibly stark language from the top. But is there a risk that focusing on the visitor's ordeal kind of distracts from the staff's core issue? They went on strike because their conditions were untenable, though I guess it underscores the link, right? The whole system is brittle, overcrowding hurts everyone, staff well-being, visitor safety, the museum's reputation. It's all connected. It's like a house of cards getting shakier.
And that shakiness, it goes right down to the foundations, the actual building. The sources mention the serious infrastructural problems, things like leaky architecture, outdated infrastructure.
Yeah.
And this is critical. Parts of the building are no longer watertight.
Not watertight in the Louvre.
Not watertight. And this isn't just a minor drip. It's a major structural issue. It impacts the museum's ability to maintain a stable environment, which is crucial. And in a historic building like that, these problems can cascade, affecting electrics, structural integrity, huge safety implications.
Which, of course, has a massive direct impact on the art itself. That's the whole point of the museum.
Yeah.
If it's not watertight, if there are temperature fluctuations that endanger priceless art, period.
Exactly.
We're not just talking about visitor comfort anymore. This is about potential mold, water damage on canvases, ancient artifacts degrading because the humidity's out of whack. That's a fundamental security risk to the collection itself.
Precisely. And the core challenge, the Louvre is described as neither fully funded nor fully functional. It's kind of stuck in limbo, undergoing this massive decade-long renovation plan. But right now, the current infrastructure simply cannot cope with the sheer foot traffic far beyond what the museum can handle. It points to a serious lack of resilience. The building itself is struggling. You start questioning everything, fire safety systems, the security of display cases when the whole structure is under such strain. The building itself becomes a liability.
Yeah, wow. And the situation at the Louvre, it really does feel bigger than just one museum. It's become this symbol of tourism pushed to its limits, as one source puts it. And you see echoes elsewhere, right? Like those anti-tourism protests across Southern Europe. Are they raising similar points? Locals feeling squeezed out, city infrastructure buckling under the weight of visitors, kind of like the Louvre's own walls are?
They absolutely are. It plugs right into this idea of unsustainable tourism. Where the sheer number of visitors starts to damage the very thing people came to see. It displaces locals, strains services, overwhelms infrastructure. What really jumped out from the sources, though, was this statement, quote, "Many of the current issues are avoidable relatively quickly."
Avoidable, really.
That's what it says. And even more pointedly, you have all the data you need to appropriately manage the guest experience while driving revenue, but most importantly, protecting and caring for your team. Which just begs the question, doesn't it? If the data is there, if they know the peak times, the bottlenecks, the stress points, why isn't it being used effectively? We're made for a crisis to address resilience, not just profit. What kind of data are we talking about? How can they actually use it?
That's such a key point. If the data's there, it sounds like a failure to act, not a lack of knowing. And from the staff's view, it seems simple. Chronic understaffing, overselling tickets. One source quotes their perspective. It's not enough to build and market something. When the customers show up, you have to be sure the whole experience is sustainable. It feels like the human side, the people actually running the place, gets lost in the chase for numbers and money.
Exactly. And the data they likely have. It would be things like detailed visitor flow analysis tracking, where people go when, identifying those choke points down to specific rooms and times, real-time queue data, incident reports, especially those linked to crowding or staff issues, even maybe anonymized visitor demographics to predict busy periods better. So theoretically, you could use that data for, say, dynamic ticket pricing to spread people out, or smart signs telling people where queues are shorter, optimizing staff breaks and locations, maybe even virtual queues so people aren't physically crammed together. The implication is the tools are there to be proactive, but the approach seems reactive, waiting for a strike to force the issue.
Okay, so what about the fixes? The solutions being talked about. President Macron has this big plan, right? The Louvre New Renaissance. Sounds fancy. It promises things like, finally, giving the Mona Lisa her own room with timed tickets, a new entrance by the river, all by 2031. Looks good on paper.
Does sound ambitious. A dedicated timed entry room for the Mona Lisa could definitely help manage that specific mob, make it less of a mosh pit. And a new entrance could spread out the arrival crush, take pressure off the pyramid. But, and this is a huge but, you have the workers' perspective. They reportedly call Macron hypocritical. Why? Because while he's funding these future projects, the Louvre's day-to-day operating budget from the government has actually shrunk by over 20% in the last decade.
Shrunk while visitor numbers soared.
Exactly. Shrunk while numbers soared. So you see this massive disconnect. Grand plans for the future, but cuts to the funding needed right now. The workers are blunt. We can't wait 6 years for help. Our teams are under pressure now. They're living that physical ordeal daily. 2031 feels a lifetime away when you're dealing with today's reality. It highlights this deep funding and management issue.
So it's this really messy financial picture. The big renovation relies on future ticket sales, donations, state funds, maybe licensing fees, and likely higher ticket prices for tourists. So what does it all mean? It feels like this tangle of big dreams, not enough immediate cash, and a very real human cost being paid by staff, which then spills over onto visitors. Like the museum's caught between needing urgent first aid and planning major surgery years down the line.
And stepping back, what's so fascinating is how this strike, it isn't just about unhappy staff. It's really a symptom, a very visible symptom, of these deep-seated physical safety and infrastructural problems. Problems driven by overcrowding that's just not sustainable. We've touched on it all, the chronic understaffing, the aging building, the sheer volume of people, made worse by modern habits, like everyone needing that phone picture, creating these dense, jostling crowds. It all adds up to what the museum's own president admitted was a physical ordeal. It's a huge red flag for cultural sites everywhere.
It really leaves you thinking, doesn't it? Here's the Louvre, this incredible treasure, and the millions who travel the world to see it. And they're all, in a way, literally caught between the cracks of these grand plans and a crumbling, overwhelmed reality. So what does this whole situation tell us about the future of tourism globally? How do we possibly balance opening up these amazing places to everyone with actually preserving them and ensuring the safety and well-being of the people who make that access possible, and building systems that are truly resilient, not just profitable? It makes you wonder what other hidden pressures are building up in the places we love to visit, what other cracks are forming just beneath that beautiful surface, quietly threatening their safety and sustainability.